The dream always started the same way. Dr. Amara Patel would find herself floating in an ocean of stars, but instead of cold emptiness, she felt warmth pulsing through the cosmos like heartbeats. Tonight was different, though. Tonight, there was someone else here. "Your species fascinates us," came a voice that wasn't quite a voice. It resonated through her consciousness like ripples in still water. "You feel so deeply, yet you function. You hurt, yet you continue. How?" Amara turned in the starlit void, her dream self searching for the source of these thoughts. A shape emerged from the darkness, flowing ribbons of light that coalesced into a vaguely humanoid form, but composed entirely of what looked like liquid starlight. The being's surface rippled with patterns that somehow conveyed both curiosity and concern. "I'm dreaming," Amara said, though she wasn't entirely convinced anymore. The neural patterns she studied in her lab had never manifested quite like this. "Yes and no," the being replied. "I am Ran, and we have been searching for creatures like you for a very long time. Your emotions, they are both your greatest vulnerability and your most remarkable strength." Amara's scientific mind began cataloging details even within the dream. The entity's form responded to her thoughts, shifting and flowing like mercury but glowing with internal light. "Why are you here, Ran?" "Because my species is dying." The statement came with a wave of something that felt like grief, but hollow, like someone trying to remember a forgotten taste. "We evolved beyond emotions eons ago, seeing them as inefficient, primitive responses. We engineered them out of our genetic code. Now we realize that was our greatest mistake." The space around them shifted, and Amara found herself floating above what appeared to be a vast city, but like nothing on Earth. Crystalline spires rose for miles into a purple sky, connected by streams of flowing light. But despite its beauty, the city felt empty. Sterile. "Our civilization advanced beyond anything you could imagine," Ran continued, "but we lost something essential. Without emotions, we cannot innovate, cannot create truly new things. We only iterate on what exists. Without the drive that comes from feeling, we are slowly stagnating. Some of us have been secretly studying Earth, drawn by the incredible emotional energy your species emanates into space." Amara thought of her work at the Neurological Research Institute, studying the relationship between emotion and consciousness. "You're saying emotions aren't just chemical responses in the brain? They have some sort of energy?" "They are both, and neither." Rand's form pulsed with patterns that somehow conveyed deep scientific interest. "Your species hasn't yet discovered the quantum emotional field, but you will. Emotions are fundamental forces of consciousness, as essential to the universe as gravity or electromagnetism." The dream space around them filled with flowing mathematical equations that Amara somehow understood despite their impossible complexity. They described consciousness itself, emotions as quantum states that could influence reality at the deepest levels. "We need your help, Dr. Patel." "You specifically. Your research into neural patterns and emotional resonance, you've already begun to touch the edges of what we're talking about. We want to establish formal contact with Earth, but we need someone who can help bridge the gap between our species. Someone who can help us remember how to feel." Amara felt her heart race, even in the dream. "Why should I trust this is real? This could all be stress manifestation from too many late nights in the lab." Rand's form shifted closer, and suddenly Amara felt a deep sense of sincerity that transcended any possibility of deception. It wasn't communicated through words or even thoughts, but through something more fundamental, like truth itself had briefly taken on physical form. "When you wake up, you'll find a small crystal on your bedside table. It shouldn't be possible for it to exist according to your current understanding of physics. That will be your proof. But more importantly..." Rand's form began to fade as Amara felt herself rising toward consciousness. "You'll feel the echo of this conversation in your consciousness, and you'll know. The next step will be yours to take." Amara's eyes snapped open to her darkened bedroom. Pale moonlight filtered through her curtains, and for a moment, she just lay there, heart pounding. It had felt so real, so. She turned her head slowly toward her bedside table. There, gleaming with an impossible internal light, sat a crystal that seemed to be made of frozen starlight. As she stared at it, she felt the distinct echo of Rand's presence in her mind, not invasive, just a gentle reminder that everything was about to change. She reached for her phone with trembling fingers and dialed the direct line to her colleague at the Institute, Dr. James Whitman. It rang 3 times before his groggy voice answered. "Amara? It's 3 a.m. James," she cut him off, her voice steady despite her racing thoughts. "Remember how we theorized that consciousness might have quantum properties we couldn't detect yet? I need you to come to my lab right now. And bring the quantum field detector." As she ended the call, Amara picked up the crystal, feeling its warm pulse against her palm. The boundary between dreams and reality was about to blur, and she knew humanity would never be the same. Would they help these beings rediscover their emotions? And more importantly, what price might humanity pay for trying? The crystal pulsed once in her hand, as if in answer to her thoughts, and Amara began preparing herself for what she knew would be the most important day in human history. The quantum field detector hummed steadily in the corner of Amara's lab, its readings confirming what she already knew: the crystal wasn't from Earth. Dr. James Whitman stood beside her, his usually skeptical expression replaced by wide-eyed wonder as he studied the holographic data displays. "The quantum entanglement patterns are unlike anything we've ever seen," he murmured, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. "It's not just storing energy, Amara. It's processing it somehow. Almost like it's translating emotions into data," Amara finished. She hadn't told him about Rand yet, or the dream. She needed more proof first. "Watch this." She picked up the crystal, holding it gently. As soon as her skin made contact, the quantum readings spiked dramatically. The crystal's internal light pulsed in sync with her heartbeat. "That's impossible," James whispered, but they both knew impossible had stopped meaning much in the past 12 hours. Before either scientist could speak again, the crystal suddenly flared with brilliant light. The air in the lab seemed to thicken, and that familiar voice that wasn't a voice filled Amara's mind. "Dr. Patel. Dr. Whitman. We believe it's time for the next step." James stumbled backward, catching himself against a lab bench. You both heard that, right?" The air shimmered, and Rand's form materialized, the same flowing, starlit shape from Amara's dream. James made a choked sound of surprise, but to his credit, remained standing. "Your species' capacity for adapting to the extraordinary is remarkable," Rand observed. "Most beings require significantly more preparation before direct contact." "Why now?" Amara asked, her scientific mind already racing ahead to implications and possibilities. "Why not wait longer to reveal yourselves?" Rand's form rippled with patterns that somehow conveyed urgency. "Because we are not the only ones who have noticed humanity's emotional energy. The Vertex Collective, those who first championed the removal of emotions from our species, have become aware of Earth. They see you as a threat." New images filled their minds: massive ships of crystalline geometry, armies of beings like Rand but darker, more rigid in their patterns. They believe emotion is a weakness that must be purged from the galaxy. They've done it before, to younger species than yours. James had recovered enough to join the conversation. "How long do we have?" "The collective's ships will reach your solar system in approximately 3 months. But we believe there may be a way to prevent conflict." Rand's form expanded, filling more of the lab with shifting patterns of light. "We've developed technology that could allow direct emotional transfer between our species. A neural bridge." Amara felt her breath catch. "You want to use humans as emotional donors?" "Not exactly," Rand's patterns shifted to something more complex. We believe that if we can demonstrate the true value of emotions, not just as abstract concepts but as experienced reality, we might be able to change the collective's mind. But for that, we need volunteers willing to share their emotional experiences directly. It could kill them, James protested. The human brain isn't designed to. We would never risk harm to your species, Rand interrupted, projecting waves of that same fundamental truth sense Amara had felt in her dream. The neural bridge technology has been specifically adapted for human physiology. We've been studying your species for longer than you might imagine. Amara stepped forward. I volunteer. Amara, no, James started, but she held up her hand. Think about it, James. This could be the key to understanding consciousness itself. The bridge between quantum mechanics and human awareness. Everything we've been researching. She turned to Ran. When do we start? The alien's form brightened. There is one more thing you should know. The neural bridge, it works both ways. While we experience your emotions, you will experience our memory of emotionlessness. Are you prepared for that void? Before Amara could respond, a new alarm blared from their lab computers. James rushed to check the readings, his face paling. Multiple objects just appeared in orbit. Big ones. They're not on any known flight paths. Rand's form pulsed with what felt like concern. The collective must have detected our contact. They're moving faster than we anticipated. The alien turned to Amara. We need to proceed now, Dr. Patel. The neural bridge takes time to establish properly. If we wait. The lab's overhead lights flickered as something passed between their building and the sun, something massive. Through the windows, Amara could see people pointing at the sky, phones raised to record whatever was up there. She squared her shoulders, years of scientific training warring with the sheer impossibility of the moment. But she knew there was only one choice. Show me how the neural bridge works. Rand's form expanded, enveloping both scientists in a gentle field of light. As the alien began explaining the process, Amara caught James's worried look and gave him a reassuring smile. Start documenting everything, she told him. Whatever happens next, the world is going to need to understand it. Above them, more ships appeared in the sky, some flowing with organic light like Rand's people, others dark and angular like the geometric nightmares from the alien's warning. Earth's first contact was about to become a race against time, not just for survival, but for the very nature of consciousness itself. As Rand began the neural bridge initialization, Amara felt her mind expanding, reaching towards something vast and ancient. She only hoped they had enough time to prove that humanity's greatest perceived weakness might actually be its greatest strength. The neural bridge felt like diving into an ocean of starlight. Amara's consciousness expanded beyond her body, beyond the confines of the lab, reaching into a vast network of alien minds. The sensation was overwhelming, like suddenly gaining 1,000 new senses all at once. Through the bridge, she felt Rand's presence, steady and guiding, but also countless others. The collective consciousness of their species stretched out like an infinite tapestry of light, each mind a distinct node in an impossibly complex web. Remarkable, Rand's thoughts echoed through the connection. Your emotional capacity, it's more than we anticipated. But Amara was barely listening. She had found something else in the neural network, a darkness at the edges. The Vertex Collective. Their presence felt cold, rigid, like crystalline structures that had forgotten how to bend. They're afraid, she realized, the insight striking her with sudden clarity. Not consciously, they engineered that away, but at a quantum level, their consciousness still remembers fear. That's why they want to destroy emotions in other species. Through their shared connection, she felt Rand's surprise ripple across the network. Other alien minds began to turn their attention toward her observation, like countless stars shifting their light. Then something unexpected happened. One of the collective minds, touching Amara's consciousness through the bridge, experienced an echo of her realization. That echo carried with it a trace of emotion, just a whisper of feeling, but in a mind that had known none for millennia, it was like a spark in an oxygen-rich atmosphere. The alien consciousness recoiled, but not before the spark caught. Across the neural network, Amara felt the change begin. The rigid patterns of collective thought began to fluctuate, experiencing tiny fragments of emotion through their connection to her mind. Some embraced it, their consciousness patterns softening, becoming more like Rand's people. Others fought against it, their resistance only making the emotional bleed-through more chaotic. In the physical world, James's voice seemed to come from very far away. Amara, your neural patterns are off the charts. The quantum field detector is showing ripples throughout the entire building. She tried to respond, but she was too deep in the network now. Through her connection, she could feel the chaos spreading through the collective ships in orbit. Some of their crew were experiencing emotions for the first time in their species' recorded history. It's too much, too fast, Rand warned. Their ship's control systems are tied directly to their consciousness. If they lose control. A massive tremor shook the lab. Through the neural bridge, Amara felt one of the collective ships losing stability in orbit as its crew grappled with their first taste of panic in millennia. We have to slow this down, she projected through the network. They need time to adjust. Their minds aren't ready for the full spectrum of human emotion. But it was too late to contain the cascade. The emotional awakening was spreading exponentially through the neural network, jumping from mind to mind like lightning through a conductive medium. Thousands of years of suppressed feelings were surfacing all at once. In orbit, more collective ships began to show signs of instability. Others, crewed by those who had better adapted to the emotional awakening, moved to assist them. The rigid hierarchy of the collective was dissolving in real time. This is unprecedented, Rand communicated, their consciousness patterns showing signs of their own emotional stirring. We sought to understand emotions, but this is transformation on a scale we never imagined possible. Through the neural bridge, Amara felt the impact of what was happening. Joy, fear, anger, love, emotions that had been engineered out of these beings were resurging, carried on the quantum frequencies of consciousness itself. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. But there was something else too, a deeper response from the aliens experiencing emotion. Their consciousness patterns were becoming more complex, more dynamic. New neural pathways were forming in their quantum-linked minds, creating possibilities that hadn't existed before. Look, she projected to Rand, sharing her observation through the bridge. Their capacity for innovation, it's increasing exponentially. Emotional context is creating new connections, new possibilities in their thought patterns. The lab's instruments were going haywire now, trying to measure quantum fluctuations that defied their designed parameters. Through the windows, the sky had become a light show of ships maneuvering, some erratically, others with newfound grace. Then, through the chaos of the network, a new consciousness pattern emerged. One of the collective's highest-ranking members, their equivalent of an admiral, had fully embraced the emotional awakening. Their mind reached out through the neural bridge, touching every connected consciousness with a message that carried centuries of wisdom and newfound feeling. We were wrong. What we thought was evolution beyond emotion was actually devolution away from our true potential. These humans, they aren't primitive for feeling. They've maintained connection to something we forgot, something fundamental to consciousness itself. The impact of this declaration rippled through the network like a shockwave. More collective members began to embrace the change, their resistance crumbling in the face of undeniable truth. But as Amara watched this transformation unfold, she felt something dark stirring at the edges of her awareness. Not everyone in the collective was accepting this change. A faction was forming, those who saw this emotional awakening as a corruption to be purged. And they were preparing to take decisive action. Through her connection to the network, she felt their intent crystallize. If emotions were spreading like a virus through their people, then the only solution was to eliminate the source. They were going to try to destroy Earth. The threat blazed through the neural network like a cold fire. Amara felt the hostile factions' intent with crystal clarity. 12 collective warships, crewed by those most resistant to emotional awakening, were moving into attack positions around Earth. "We can't disconnect you from the bridge," James was saying, his voice tense. "Your neural patterns are too deeply integrated with their network. Pulling you out could cause permanent damage." "She must remain connected," Rand communicated. "Through her, we might yet find a solution." Amara pushed her consciousness deeper into the network, trying to understand the hostile factions' patterns. Their thoughts were different from the others, not just emotionless, but actively anti-emotional, as if they'd transformed their fear of feeling into a weapon. Through the bridge, she sensed the other ships moving to intercept the attackers. The emotionally awakened crews were faster now, their movements guided by intuition as well as logic. But the hostile faction had centuries of combat experience and technology that humanity had never dreamed of. The first shots were fired in high orbit, beams of energy that operated on quantum levels, designed to disrupt consciousness itself. Amara felt the screams of minds being torn from the network, both emotional and non-emotional crews caught in the devastation. "Stop," she projected through the network, her consciousness reaching toward the hostile ships. "You're proving our point. Your fear of emotion is driving you to destroy." "How is that logical?" The response came back like shards of ice. "Contamination must be contained. The purity of thought must be preserved." But even as they fought, something extraordinary was happening. The emotional awakening hadn't stopped. It was still spreading through the network, touching more minds, creating new connections. And with each new awakening, the consciousness patterns of the aliens were becoming more complex, more adaptable. Amara watched in awe as the emotionally awakened ships began moving in ways that defied traditional combat logic. They weren't just fighting, they were improvising, creating new strategies on the fly, driven by something the hostile faction couldn't predict: intuition. "That's it," she realized, projecting her understanding through the network. "Emotion isn't just feeling, it's a form of quantum processing. It allows consciousness to make leaps that pure logic can't follow." She felt Rand's consciousness brighten with understanding. "Yes, our evolution wasn't just about removing emotion. We accidentally removed a fundamental component of advanced cognition." The battle in orbit had become a dance of light and energy, witnessed by billions of humans below. The emotionally awakened ships moved like schools of fish, their maneuvers guided by collective intuition. The hostile factions' rigid tactics were beginning to fail against this new, unpredictable defense. But Earth was still in danger. The hostile ships, realizing they were losing the conventional battle, began charging their primary weapons, devices capable of reaching down through the atmosphere to strike the planet's surface. That's when Amara felt it, a new possibility emerging from the quantum fields of consciousness. The neural bridge wasn't just connecting minds, it was creating a new form of awareness, a hybrid of human emotion and alien logic. "The quantum emotional field," she projected. "We can use it as more than just a connection. If enough of us focus together." She didn't need to explain further. Through the network, thousands of awakened alien minds joined with her consciousness, combining their quantum understanding with human emotional resonance. The hostile factions' weapons were based on quantum principles that could be influenced by consciousness itself. James's voice cut through her concentration. "The quantum field detector, these readings are beyond anything we thought possible. Whatever you're doing, it's affecting spacetime itself." Amara gathered the combined consciousness of the network, focusing it like a lens. The hostile factions' weapons fired, sending beams of destructive energy toward Earth. But as they entered the quantum emotional field generated by the unified consciousness, something beautiful happened. The energy didn't dissipate or deflect, it transformed. The quantum properties of the weapons, meeting the combined power of emotion and logic working in harmony, underwent a fundamental change. Where there had been destruction, there was now creation. The beams of energy bloomed into new patterns of reality, mathematical beauty made visible. The hostile faction's greatest weapons had been turned into a demonstration of what they feared most, the creative power of emotion combined with intelligence. Through the neural bridge, Amara felt the last resistance in the hostile faction begin to crumble. Their rigid patterns of thought couldn't deny what they were seeing. Emotion wasn't a weakness to be eliminated, but a fundamental force of consciousness evolution. The battle ended not with destruction, but with transformation. The hostile ships powered down their weapons, their crews experiencing their first moments of awe, an emotion so profound it broke through centuries of conditioning. But as the immediate danger passed, Amara became aware of a new challenge. The neural bridge had grown far beyond its original design, connecting minds across vast distances of space and consciousness. The power required to maintain it was immense, and growing. They had won the battle for Earth, but now they faced a different problem: how to stabilize this new form of connected consciousness before it collapsed under its own weight. And somewhere in the quantum fields of shared awareness, Amara sensed that this might have been the real test all along, not whether humanity could help aliens feel, but whether both species together could evolve into something entirely new. The neural bridge had become something far greater than its creators had intended. In the days following the battle, the combined consciousness of humans and aliens had evolved into what scientists were calling the harmonic network, a quantum field of shared awareness that spanned the solar system. Amara stood at her lab window, watching the alien ships that now peacefully orbited Earth. Their crystalline structures caught the sunlight differently now, seeming to pulse with inner light that reflected their crew's newly awakened emotions. "The quantum field stabilization is holding," James reported, checking his instruments. "The network seems to be self-regulating now. It's almost like it's alive," Amara finished. Through her continued connection to the network, she could feel it, a new form of consciousness emerging from the synthesis of human emotion and alien logic. Not a hive mind, but something more subtle, a harmonic resonance of thought and feeling that enhanced both species while preserving their individuality. Rand's form materialized beside them, their light patterns now showing clear emotional expression. "We never imagined this outcome. We sought to reclaim our capacity for emotion, but instead, we've discovered an entirely new state of being." Through the network, Amara could sense the transformations taking place throughout both civilizations. Human scientists, connected to the vast knowledge of alien minds, were making breakthrough discoveries daily. Artists were creating works that existed in quantum states, expressing emotions in ways that transcended traditional physics. The aliens, in turn, were experiencing an explosion of creativity and innovation, their logical minds enhanced rather than hindered by their rediscovered emotions. But it wasn't all euphoria. The integration had its challenges. Some humans struggled with the vast awareness the network provided, while some aliens grappled with the intensity of their new emotions. Both species had to learn to navigate this new reality together. "We're detecting new quantum signatures," James announced, drawing their attention to his displays. "The network, it's generating novel consciousness patterns on its own." Amara reached out through her connection, touching these new patterns. What she found took her breath away. They're not just patterns, they're potential futures. The network is processing possible evolutionary paths for both our species. "The quantum emotional field creates possibilities," Rand explained, their form brightening with excitement. "When logic and feeling work in harmony, consciousness itself becomes creative. We're not just sharing thoughts and emotions anymore, we're collectively shaping reality." Through the network, Amara felt the truth of this. The combined power of human emotional intelligence and alien quantum technology was opening doors that neither species could have approached alone. But it was also revealing greater challenges ahead. "There are other species out there," she said, sensing them through the expanding network. "Some more advanced than either of us, some just beginning to reach for the stars. And they're all part of this same quantum tapestry of consciousness. Yes, Ran agreed. What we've created here, this harmony of emotion and logic, it's not just for our species. It's a new model of evolution itself. The lab's quantum field detector chimed, registering yet another breakthrough in the network's development. James studied the readings with wide eyes. The consciousness patterns, they're becoming more complex, but also more stable. It's like the network is learning to compose itself. A symphony of feelings, Amara mused, understanding flowing through her. Each consciousness, human and alien, contributing its own unique note to a greater harmony. Through the windows, they could see more ships arriving, diplomatic vessels from other alien civilizations, drawn by the unprecedented quantum signatures emanating from Earth. The news of what had happened here was spreading across the galaxy, carried on waves of consciousness itself. We still have so much to learn, Rand said, their form pulsing with what Amara now recognized as joy. About emotions, about consciousness, about each other. But for the first time in our species' history, we're not just accumulating knowledge, we're growing in wisdom. Amara smiled, feeling the truth of those words resonate through the network. What had started as a desperate attempt to save two species had become something far more profound, a new chapter in the evolution of consciousness itself. As she stood there, connected to this vast web of minds and hearts, she understood that this wasn't an ending, but a beginning. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, not as conquerors or victims, but as teachers and students both. They had proved that what others saw as weakness was actually their greatest strength. The quantum emotional field rippled with possibilities, carrying the combined dreams of two species toward a future neither could have imagined alone. And somewhere in that field of infinite potential, new symphonies of consciousness were waiting to be discovered. Above them, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if reflecting the light of countless awakened minds reaching out across the cosmos, each adding their own unique note to the universal song of existence. The age of isolation was over. The symphony of feelings had just begun.